Hello everyone and welcome to this lesson. Now this lesson is basically just going to be a quick understanding of physics and how physics works in Unity. And we'll just be playing around with physics. We'll see how physics works, play around with a bit of math. We'll also be playing around with rigid bodies, see the different colliders of Unity. That's basically it. Now everything in Unity is basically a game object. Everything you see in the scene view and in the hierarchy is basically just a game object, but with different components. For example, a square sprite is basically just the same as the normal empty game object we see here. But the difference between the two is that the square sprite has the sprite renderer component, and the sprite renderer component has the square sprite in it. So it basically tells that spawn this game object and do everything that's in the component. So what's in the components? It's sprite renderer. So render the sprite that's in the components basically, if that makes any sense. This is the color, and this is basically the flip. You can flip it from on the x-axis or on the y-axis. You can change the order and layers so that, for example, if we have two squares, I'm just gonna create another square, Control D to create another square, and I'm gonna make the square black. I'm gonna make it way bigger. So what's the difference between this white square that we have here and this black square? Now if we take this white square and we put it all the way here, we can't see it anymore. Why is that? Why is that we can see the big black square but not the little white square right here? Because, well, the ordinal layer is all 0, so it's all just randomized. But if we say that this white square, let's just name it white square, and let's just set the ordinal layer to 2. So because this ordinal layer is less than the ordinal layer of the square, the white square will show first, and then the black square will show after that, because the ordinal layer is larger. You can even add multiple sorting layers, so that, for example, if we want a white square and a black square, and we want the white square to show first, we can go here, select the white square, select this as the black square. If we change all of these to 0, for example, this will show first because we changed the sorting layer. You can use the ordinal layer or the sorting layer, however you like. I'm just gonna use the ordinal layer because I like it more, to be honest. Let's make it a ground. Let's make a simple little test platformer, and we want to make it a bit bigger, so because it's the ground, and we want to bring the white square. So what we want to do is that we just want this white square to just fall and stick to the ground like normal gravity. So when we click on play, if we click on play right now, it doesn't do anything, and as it should, because, well, we didn't tell Unity what to do. We just told Unity that to draw this little white square here and a big black square. That's all Unity thinks that it should do. Now what we could do is that we could add basic gravity. We can add a rigid body. There is a rigid body 3D and a rigid body 2D. So what is a rigid body? A rigid body, it adds basic physics to the game object. So like whenever someone makes an actual game from scratch, they have to code in actual gravity. Like they have to go in and code in gravity for their game. But Unity makes it all easier and just makes it a little components. So by adding this, you basically add gravity mass, gravity scale, linear and angular drag. You can constrain it, you can freeze the position on the X and Y, or you can freeze the rotation. Now this is just the 2D rigid body. You have also the 3D rigid body, which is a whole nother story. But now we'll just get into the rigid body 2D. Now if we play, this should fall down. The little white square should fall down. And as we can see, it fell down, but it didn't stick to the ground. Why is that? Well, because we didn't add a collider. We didn't add something that says, hey, stop right here when you collide with another thing. So we should add a basic collider. Let's add a box collider 2D. As you can see, it added this basically green stuff. So this is a collider, And we should add a collider right here, just a collider, not a rigid body. There's a collider right here, as you can see. Now if we click on play, and as you can see, it fell down and it's stuck to the ground. What we can do, you can duplicate the game object. You can duplicate this game object when you're playing the game, just to test out the physics in the game, just to basically play around with physics, mess around with physics really. You can add 2D objects. You can add a circle right here, and you can make a simple script on spawning circles and squares, just like to have fun basically. Now just to play around, I made a simple script to spawn in circles and squares, just to play around. I think it's a bit satisfying, to be honest, which is pretty cool. What I did is I basically just added a empty game object and I added a spawning script to it. Now at first glance this may seem a bit complicated, but it's basically an if statement that says if I press on the U key, you'll spawn in a circle at this position and this rotation. If I press on the I key, you'll spawn in the square on this position and this rotation. I basically just made this just to show you around. And I also made a prefab. A prefab is basically I just took this from the hierarchy window and I added it right here. Now I already added a white square, so for example I'm just gonna add a ground, and as you can see I have a ground right here. And the exact same copy, so it has the box collider 2D, the same position, the same rotation and the same scale. So like if I take the ground again, I put it, it's the same exact copy. It has the same rotation and the same exact scale. So I don't have to add in a new square sprite and then color it black and then put in a box collider or a rigid body or whatever. You just have the exact same copy just in the asset section. Now I'm just gonna delete these. I'm gonna delete this spawning script and I'm gonna delete the ground. Now you could, even if you want, you could make a simple scale like object. So if we duplicate this, and I'm gonna rotate it 90 degrees, and I'm gonna maybe make it a bit wider, set this as a rigid body, only this object. I'm gonna put one right here, I'm gonna put the other one right here. The only difference is I'm gonna make this 10 times its normal mass. So this will be 10 times heavier than this circle. Now if we play, we can see the difference. Okay, now as you can see, that circle went way faster than that one, and it pretty much destabilized the whole entire thing. Now if we put in a ground object, alright. Now let's replay. And cool. As you can see, the left ball was way heavier. Now I added to the circle, I added the circle collider. I think I didn't show you that, but I added the circle collider to this circle, and to this circle I added the circle collider. But to normal boxes I just added the box collider 2D, and the rigid body 2D. It stays the same really. Now let's just undo everything. You know what, let's just delete everything except this game object. You know what, delete this game object too. Why not? So let's delete everything. Alright, so that was basically a quick demonstration of what physics can do. Okay, so that was basically it for this lesson. I will see you in the next lesson.